There are so many things that make the Netherlands special.
We are on a quest to experience as much of it as possible while visiting our daughter who lives here and taking Cassandra's father, who's from the Cayman Islands, on the European trip of a lifetime. This is our Netherlands story about our explorations and our family's connections with this beautiful land.
Hello everyone, I'm Cassandra.
And I'm Scott.
We had an amazing time in Utrecht, Netherlands, experiencing as much as we possibly could in a couple of days, while also taking time out for our daughter's graduation, which was the reason we were visiting the Netherlands. She graduated from Utrecht University with her master's degree, and we're so proud of her. So thank you so much to everyone who joined us for our previous episodes. Especially those of you who liked and commented. We're really enjoying getting to know people through this, and there were a lot of really helpful comments teaching us some more history of Utrecht. So thank you for that. So if you haven't seen episode 3 yet, please take a look at that and our other episodes from the Netherlands and follow our story for our experiences as we experience as much as we can in this beautiful country.
Yeah. So we're really excited about this episode because we're visiting Delft. So Delft is a beautiful historic city. And I just want to tell you a little backstory. I was actually born in Holland, Michigan in the United States. And that's where I first learned about, and you too, learned about wooden shoes and tulips and windmills and Delft pottery. And we both really love blue Delft pottery. And Delft, Netherlands is the only place in the world where true, authentic Royal Delft pottery is made. So we're really excited to have the opportunity to visit this city, see where the pottery is made, and also walk around the city. It's a beautiful historic city. There's a lot to see and do there. And we did as much as we could in a short period of time.
Yep.
So we're excited to take you along on this journey and show you what we experienced in Delft.
We took an intercity train from Utrecht Centraal to Delft, and it was about 1 hour and 15-minute ride, connecting through Rotterdam. We arrived at the Delft train station in the morning so we could have time to visit the Royal Delft Museum and Factory before heading to the Delft City Square, called the Markt, for lunch. The train station is partially underground and is part of the modern and beautiful building that also houses municipal offices and the City Hall. As we approach the main lobby of the train station, look carefully at the ceiling. This is a tremendous art installation that shows a map of Delft as it was in 1876. It was created in the Delft blue color that is iconic on Delftware pottery and is comprised of 30 million dots printed on both sides of 1,931 baffles or acoustic panels.
We had about a 20-minute wait before catching our bus to the Royal Delft Museum, so I decided to take a short walk around the area near the station. The building that was the old Delft railway station, built in 1885, still stands next to the new building and has now been converted to a restaurant called Pavarotti Restaurant. This old station had replaced an even older station that began operation in 1847. I walked all the way around the back of this historic building and noticed a beautiful patio and garden in the back. This is actually a public park called Park Spoorloos and is where the old train platforms used to be. This looks like a great place to relax and enjoy the mix of historic and modern ambiance. As I made my way around the building, I saw that the bus station out front was very convenient and that it was just about time to go. So I quickly walked back and met up with Cassandra and her father, Cassidy, to hop on the bus.
We arrived at a bus stop almost directly in front of the Royal Delft Museum, and we had a short walk around the museum building to get to the entrance. Royal Delft was founded in 1653 and is the last remaining Delft blue pottery company in the Netherlands. This building houses the still operational Royal Delft Factory, where handmade pottery is still made using traditional methods, and it houses the Royal Delft Museum. Both of these can be seen through the Royal Delft Experience, which opened in 2012. We had bought our tickets in advance to tour the museum, and when we entered, we were warmly greeted and shown where we could store our backpacks and other belongings in free lockers. Photos and videos are allowed, so we brought our cameras and phones, but left everything else behind. Impressive pieces of the iconic and beautiful blue and white Royal Delft ware were displayed everywhere. One of the most interesting parts of the museum was a set of displays that showed and explained how Delft ware is created. This started with the raw materials like high-quality clay, glaze, and black cobalt paint, and then pieces were shown prior to painting, after painting, and then finally after firing in the kiln, which turns the black paint to the brilliant blue color.
There are many displays of beautiful and historic pieces that cannot be seen anywhere else. A person could easily spend hours here looking at these historic pieces and reading about the history of Delft ware in the Netherlands. This type of pottery started to be produced in the Netherlands in the early to mid 1600s, and it was inspired by Chinese porcelain. Around the middle of the 17th century, there were more than 30 pottery companies in Delft and 12 in Rotterdam. The company that would go on to produce Royal Delft ware, De Porcelain Vlees, was founded in 1653, and by the end of the 19th century was the only pottery company left in the Netherlands. One of the most impressive pieces is this recreation of Rembrandt's The Night Watch painting, created in 480 Delft blue tiles, adding up to the size of the original painting at 363 by 437 centimeters. There were also other Delft ware tiled murals on display that were quite impressive. Then we walked into rooms showing the history of the decorative and architectural tile industry. Between the years 1876 and 1981, Royal Delft also made building ceramics for ships and buildings for both construction and ornamental displays. We then entered a large factory area where you can see pieces at different stages of the creation process and artists actively working on some of these pieces. There were immense numbers of pieces at the pre-painted clay stage, and it was amazing just to think that each of these would one day find a home as a treasured keepsake at a home or business.
The most treasured pieces of Delft ware are hand-painted, and one of our favorite parts of this tour was seeing an artist patiently and meticulously painting a complicated design on a large plate. You can see why these pieces are so cherished and why many of them are quite expensive to purchase. On the right side of the table, notice a Delft ware replica of Johannes Vermeer's famous painting, Girl with the Pearl Earring. Finally, we made our way out of the factory and into a final display room that showcased the history of Delft ware in the Netherlands. Then we exited into a store where many pieces could be purchased, and we did buy one small souvenir. We truly enjoyed our time at the Royal Delft experience. It was so interesting to learn about the intriguing and inspiring history of this beautiful Dutch craft, and overall it was a very relaxing experience to start our day in the city of Delft. After the Royal Delft Museum, we hopped on another bus and took a short ride to a bus stop near the Delft City Markt. We had a pleasant walk along some beautiful canals towards the historic city center and marketplace.
The Delft Markt is one of the largest city squares in Europe at 120 meters by 50 meters. At one end of the Markt stands the towering New Kerk, or New Church, the construction of which started in 1351 and proceeded in several stages and then after a devastating fire in 1536, was finally restored and completed in 1655. The Markt is surrounded by shops and restaurants, and at the end opposite of the church stands the impressive City Hall, or Stadthaus. This building was originally constructed in 1200 and underwent several later expansions and renovations, and was severely damaged in a fire in 1618. The present form of the Stadthaus was completed between 1618 and 1620. We purchased a ticket that allowed us to tour both the new church and the old church. We started at the new church and were amazed by the incredible columns, the abundant windows and natural light, and the impressive wooden ceiling. Most members of the Dutch royal family have been buried in tombs here, including William of Orange, who was assassinated in Delft in 1584.
After visiting the new church, we had a quiet lunch at a small restaurant behind City Hall, and then walked along more canals and past other restaurants and shops to get to the old church, or Oude Kerk.
Today we're hanging out in the beautiful city of Delft in the Netherlands. We spent some time in the new church, and now we're making our way to what they call the old church. And we had some lunch in between.
I had my first toasty.
What?
I had my first toasty.
Your first toasty in the Netherlands.
Which is really a grilled cheese, but I've been told no, it's a toasty.
Yes, just don't call it grilled cheese.
It was a beautiful walk, and the city was not busy on this Monday in October. It was a bit cloudy and drizzly, as it often is in the Netherlands, but it felt comfortable, and we occasionally saw some peaks of sun. We entered the old church and noticed that the architecture was a bit simpler, but no less beautiful than in the new church. Several famous people were buried at the old church, including the renowned painter Johannes Vermeer. We thought that the intricately constructed wooden ceiling in this old church, however, was even more impressive than the one in the new church. When we polled our group of 3, we all agreed that we liked the old church better, but you should probably visit for yourself to make your own decision.
We departed the old church and had a pleasant walk along a canal, of course, headed back toward the city center. We made it just in time for the last departing canal cruise and decided to hop on to get some different views of the city. We cruised very close to the old church, which almost looks like it's going to topple over into the canal. The tower actually is leaning a bit, about 2 meters off center, because the soft ground did not provide a firm foundation. It started to lean even before it was completed, but then was stabilized and the upper parts were built more vertically to reduce the leaning appearance. During the cruise, we had many great views of the beautiful city. I was a bit disappointed, however, because there wasn't an open space where we didn't have to look through windows where we could get an unobstructed view. But it was still a very relaxing experience, and we learned a lot during this narrated tour. We all decided that when we're in the Netherlands, canal cruises are one of the best ways to see any city.
Please remember to like, subscribe, and come back for our next video when we visit the heritage village of Zaanse in Zaandam, the Netherlands. Here it is all about the windmills, seeing their beauty and learning about the various ways that they were used in Netherlands industries. We go up to the top of a working windmill where the views are incredible, and Scott, my dad, and I talk to you from up there about our Zaanse experience so far. Then we walk around inside this windmill that is still used to grind minerals for making paint. Finally, we walk around the village some more to learn about how Dutch cheeses and wooden shoes are made. See you there!